Hi everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. This is my April TBR. So this TBR is going to be in two categories. First of all, I have a bunch of TBR books here to talk about because I'm trying to reduce my TBR. I have posted a zero TBR video recently. I will leave it linked down below. If you are interested in going to watch it, then you definitely should after you've watched this video. I'm trying my best to reduce my TBR pile because it's not going well at the moment, so I'm trying to focus on those books in April. Additionally, I'm also trying to do ARC April, which is obviously like ARC August, where readers try to read their advanced readers copies for the month. So I do actually have a bunch of books that I got from NetGalley that I have also bought, so there's some crossover here, which is quite handy. I don't know how many books I'm going to be able to read in April. I do actually have quite a few plans, but I also have some time off because of Easter and extra holiday days that I've taken. I think it's going to be a good month and I am allowed to be ambitious. I think I'll start off with the physical books that I want to show you, and then we can talk about the advanced readers copies that I have from NetGalley. I don't really have any physical ARCs, I don't think. Ones that I've only received physically. So the first book that I want to read in April, or not necessarily the first book that I'm going to show you that I want to read in April is Pachinko. This is a historical generational story. I believe it's about a family who lived in Korea and then had to move to Japan. It starts off in the early 1900s and then I think it follows different generations of this same family through the years. My friends have read this and they've all cried, so I'm expecting this to be really emotional. I love crying while I'm reading books, so I'm looking forward to reading this one and I'm finally getting around to it. It's quite chunky, but I do think it's going to be a fast-paced read, especially because I'm really interested in the subject matter, so that's why this one's on the TBR, and I think it's been turned into a TV show if I remember correctly, or maybe a film, so I could maybe check that out if I enjoy the book, which I think I will. I also really want to read Daughters of Sparta. This is a Greek mythology retelling. This follows a character whose name I really struggle to pronounce, Clytemnestra and Helen, who are both princesses of Sparta. And I do actually, I might as well tie this in now, have the book Clytemnestra from NetGalley, and I've requested it from the library because it's already come out, and I'm hoping to read that one in April as well. So hopefully I don't get burnt out on Greek mythology retellings, but I thought it would be fun to try to compare the two. I don't know if that's a good idea. I might drop that idea by the end of April, but it's just something I thought I might give a go. I also really want to read Forest of a Thousand Lanterns. This is the first book in a companion duology, I think, or trilogy. I have no idea what it's about, so let's find out together. It says here that the stars say that the main character is destined for greatness. She is meant to be the Empress, but only if she embraces the darkness within her. Growing up as a peasant in a forgotten village on the edge of the map, the main character longs to fulfill the destiny promised to her by her cruel aunt, the witch Guma, who has read the cards and seen glimmers of her majestic future. I have heard fantastic things about this book, and did I say that I got this from NetGalley a few years ago and I didn't read it because I think I was on a break, a booktubing break at the time, so I just never got around to it. But this is definitely one that I want to give a go. I love the sound of it, and all of my friends, or most of my friends, have read this one and really loved it. So I do think it's going to be something that I enjoy. I'm hoping it's going to be really fast paced. It's quite a short book for a fantasy book as well, so I always appreciate that. Another book that I definitely need to get to is The Bone Shard Emperor. I was hoping to read this in March, but it's a chunky one and I just didn't have time. This is the sequel to The Bone Shard Daughter, and the third book, The Bone Shard War, is one that I got from NetGalley and it is coming out in April. So I do need to get a move on with this one. It's just really intimidating because it's so thick, and I've heard this one isn't quite as good as The Bone Shard Daughter, the first book, and I only gave the first book 3.5 stars, I think. It's not really one that has stuck with me so far, but I did enjoy the characters and the world building, so I'm looking forward to reading this. Hopefully the plot is more fast-paced and more developed or intricate than it was in the first book, so I'm really looking forward to reading this, even though I am a bit intimidated. I'm hoping to start this in March because I'm recording this later on in March, and then I can carry it over into April and finish it off quite early and then read the third book in the series. I also really want to read Semiosis because my friend Angela has been recommending this one. I actually found this at a work book swap and my colleague donated it because she hated the book, and I picked it up thinking it sounded really good, and then she sort of warned me off of it, but I've decided that it does actually sound like my kind of thing, especially because my friend Angela really enjoys it. Adrian Tchaikovsky has blurbed it, and he's an author that I have read from before, albeit only one book I think, so you know. It says here that the plants on this other planet are smart enough to domesticate and even slaughter its many extraordinary animals. To survive, the colonists realise they must strike bargains of their own. But if they are to make this planet their home, they must go further, searching for a way to communicate and coexist with these utterly alien intelligences. I really love the sound of this one. I think it sounds excellent, and it's a real shame my co-worker didn't enjoy it, but I think I will. I've got very, very high hopes for this one. Another one that I really want to read is called A Golden Age, and I think a friend of mine recommended this, if I remember correctly, but I cannot for the life of me remember who. I added it to my wish list and then I found it in the library, so I nabbed it, and I've just realised there's a face on the cover. So this is set in 1971 in East Pakistan, and I believe that this is around the time that a war breaks out and Bangladesh is established. I don't really know much about the history of or historical relationship between India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, so I'm going to be very intrigued by this one and I'm very excited to read it. I'm really into historical fiction at the moment, in case you couldn't tell by watching my videos. So this is one that I'm very, very excited for, and I'm convinced my friend Kerry recommended this one, but I could be very wrong. A book that Kerry definitely did recommend, however, is Plain Bad Heroines. This is one of her all-time favourite books, I think, and she recommended it to our book club, but I just didn't have time to get to it because it was in the winter when I had various travel plans and then Christmas and loads of stuff going on at work. So I'm finally picking it up now, and she bought this one for me for my birthday or Christmas, I can't remember which one. This, I think, is a gothic mystery sort of thing with fantasy involved as well. It says here that it's set in the early 1900s, so there's a little bit of historical. Students Flo and Clara fell madly in love. A few months later, they were found dead in the woods after a horrific wasp attack. 3 more deaths followed before the school was forced to close. Now the school's doors are open once more, and a crew of glamorous young actresses assemble to start filming, and past and present begin to blur. So it's not a generational story, but it's like got dual timelines where there's a mystery involved in both, and it's kind of woven in between. So I love the sound of this one, and Kerry loves it as well, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. It's taken me ages to get to because, again, it's a really chunky book, but I think I'm going to fly through it actually, so looking forward to reading this one as well. A couple of other books that I bought recently, just to spoil my April book haul for you, are 2 that I actually do have on NetGalley as well, so that's good. We have Halflings, which I believe it's focusing on her face, that's hilarious. We have Halflings, which is a book about angels. This came out in 2012, around the time of the fallen angel boom. It was a good time in the book blogosphere, so I'm hoping to get the nostalgia back and feel all the feels. So yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to love this one, to be honest, because my taste in fiction has definitely changed since those early days of Booktube and book blogging, but I think it's going to be fun, hopefully. And then another one that I got from NetGalley and then bought a copy of is the Paladin Prophecy. This one also came out in 2012. I have no idea what it's about. I think it's some sort of sci-fi thriller, and that's what drew me to it, but I cannot remember anything else about it, and the synopsis on the back tells me absolutely nothing. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to be reading these two books in a reading vlog, as well as another couple, I think, and that should come out towards the end of April or in May. So we'll see if I like those. I'm a little bit hesitant because, like I said, my taste in reading has definitely changed over the past 13 years that I've been doing this, and obviously in the 30 years that I have been reading. But sometimes old school books do take me back to those early years, and I do really enjoy reading them. So yeah, fingers crossed I will enjoy both of those and the other one that I'm going to read. Another NetGalley book that I got quite recently and then requested from the library because I saw that my library had ordered it is In the Upper Country. This is another historical fiction book. I think it's about a main character who is black, who travels up north to Canada, and then I believe a few years later, after arriving in Canada, she ends up killing a bounty hunter who has been following her from the south of the USA. And so she's in jail because she killed a guy, and then there's a journalist who wants to hear her story, so they exchange stories and stuff. I'm really looking forward to this one. I might include this in my 5-star predictions list if I'm going to do one anytime soon, because I do have really, really high hopes, and I have read the first chapter and it was very captivating, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. And then I just have 2 more books to show you, the first one being How High We Go in the Dark. This was on my most anticipated list for 2022, and my library only just got a copy, which is quite surprising because normally my library systems are quite up to date with new releases, but I think this one wasn't a massive one, so that's why they've only just gotten hold of it. So I think this one starts off in Siberia. It's set slightly in the future, I think in 2031. A virus breaks out of the permafrost and causes havoc, and I think it follows different characters who are each affected by this virus in a different way, and they're all sort of interlinked. Love the sound of this one. I am really sad that I didn't get to read it last year, so I'm really excited to be able to read it now, and I really hope that I love this one. And then finally, I'm going to be doing a reread of Poison Study. So this is a book that I read in probably 2011. It's the first book in an old school YA fantasy series that slowly becomes more adult as it goes along. I would say that Maria V. Snyder was the original Sarah J. Maas, just she didn't get as popular. Like I said, I've already read this one, so I can actually tell you about it. This is about a young woman called Yelena who is put up for trial for something. I can't remember what, to be honest. It's not important. It probably is. And she is given the choice. She can either be executed or she can become a food taster for the royal family. So she obviously takes the option that allows her to live and becomes a food taster, but you know, because she's testing for poison, she might not be alive for very long. So Yelena has to go through this whole learning period where she has to learn all about poisons, study poisons if you will, and figure out how to identify poisons before she dies potentially. She also has a voice in her head. I won't tell you who that voice is because I don't think it tells you on the back of the book, but there is a voice and she's hearing things. And then she discovers that there may be something magical about her, so that's really cool. There's also a love interest who I remember loving, but I also remember there being a little bit of an issue with him. He was a little bit iffy and I can't remember why, but I'm sure something happens, like he hits her in the beginning or something. I don't know. But anyway, I want to reread this book because I want to read the rest of the series. I've actually got them here. We've got Magic Study and Fire Study. So this is the original trilogy. And then Maria V. Snyder also did a spin-off series, and then she expanded both trilogies, I think, and then she did even more. So basically she's a very prolific author, and I actually want to read all of her backlist and decide which series of hers I think is best and worth my time. This isn't actually the first Maria V. Snyder book that I read. I actually read her sci-fi book Inside Out, which I might also reread as well fairly soon, but I wanted to start off with Poison Study so that I can read the whole series. I also need to recap these last two books for recaptains, so it's part of a longer project. But I think it'd be really cool to revisit these and see what I think of them nowadays. Maybe I'll hate them, maybe it won't be as good. I've got, oh my god, this is adorable. So I've got a library card. This must have been when I decided to start doing like library cards in my books. Have I got one in Poison Study as well? Oh, I do. So you can see here, maybe you can't, that I started doing little library cards in this book. So Poison Study, Maria V. Snyder, with a love heart obviously, and then that says May 10th 2011. So I read this 12 years ago, which is mad. And then Magic Study says May 11th, so I clearly marathoned these two books. And then Fire Study I read on the 4th of June 2011. So I guess this one took a bit longer to get to me maybe, or I had to wait for another paycheck or something, I don't know. But I'm really excited to reread those, and I really do hope that I enjoy them and they're not a letdown. Oh wow, what is my camera doing? And on top of all of those, I also have a bunch of NetGalley books, so I just want to go through the ones like I always do that are coming out in April, I forgot the month then, and maybe beginning of May as well, and we can decide which ones I want to read. Okay, I don't have too many in April, and I do actually mention all of these in my April new releases video, so I'm just going to go through these very, very quickly, put the covers up here, and then you can go and check out my new releases video when it comes out next week if you want to know more about them. Okay, we have The Rise and Fall of Ava Arcana, The Way of the Cicadas, if that's how you pronounce it, You Know Her, The Memory of Animals, Daughters of Madurai, The Trip, Ascension, and The Hike. So all of those are on the table on the cards. I might be reading any of those is what I'm trying to say in April for ARC April, if that's what I feel like doing. But I feel like this TBR is going to keep me going for quite a while. In terms of how it's going to affect my 0 TBR goals, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 new TBR reads. So it will reduce my TBR quite nicely, I think. I might try to fit a couple more physical copies in, but I don't want to get too ambitious in April because I do this every single month. I do think I can read quite a few, but I need to control myself, basically. That's my April TBR. Wish me luck. Let me know if you're interested in me doing any reviews for any of these books. There are definitely a few here that I think I will love, so would happily talk about. Other than that, wish me luck in the comments below. Tell me what you're planning on reading in April, and I'll speak to you all in the next video. Bye!